Snow blanketed New York in a breathless silence, muffling the city under a white shroud. Past midnight, the streets were deserted, the glow of streetlights forming pale halos through the drifting flakes. At the bus stop outside the hospital, Sandra Grace sat hunched on a frozen bench, her thin gray coat barely shielding her from the bitter January air. Her nurse's uniform peeked out beneath the fabric, and damp strands of blonde hair clung to her face. Her hands, raw and red, were tucked deep into her sleeves. A cough broke from her chest, sharp against the stillness. But she didn't move. The last bus had gone. The staff lounge was locked. Pride and exhaustion kept her rooted there, whispering the same promise she told herself every night. Just make it until morning. No one even has to know. Snow swirled across her lap when the crunch of tires broke the quiet. A sleek black SUV slowed to the curb. In the back seat, a little girl pressed mittened hands to the glass, her breath fogging the pain. "Daddy," she said softly, tugging at her father's sleeve. "That lady is cold. She looks like she needs help." Nathaniel Carter's jaw tightened. He hadn't planned to stop. But as he looked at the shivering woman on the bench, memory tore through him. The storm 2 winters ago, the night he had waited outside the ER for news that would shatter his life. He could not drive past. The SUV rolled to a halt. Nathaniel stepped out, retrieving a dark cashmere scarf from the back seat, one of the last things he kept from his late wife. He crossed the snow and draped it gently across Sandra's shoulders. She startled but clutched the fabric close. Warmth, carrying the faint scent of lavender, seeped into her skin. "At least keep warm," he murmured. Then, after a pause, "Let me give you a ride. You can't sit out here all night." Sandra hesitated, too used to surviving alone. But another cough racked her chest, and her gaze fell on the child in the back seat, big brown eyes watching her with open, unguarded kindness. That decided it. Inside, the air stung her frozen skin. Betty offered a shy smile, and Sandra, almost despite herself, returned it. Minutes passed with only the hum of the engine and the sweep of the wipers. Then Betty reached forward, pulling a pink scrunchie from her wrist and holding it out. Without thinking, Sandra gathered the girl's curls into a neat ponytail. Nathaniel noticed in the mirror. His daughter hadn't let anyone touch her hair since her mother died. Something in his chest ached. "I was going to take you to a hotel," he said carefully. Then his voice softened, almost breaking on the words. "You need a home, and I need a mother for my daughter." Sandra froze, searching his face. There was no pity, no mockery, only quiet sincerity. Before she could answer, Betty whispered, clutching her teddy bear, "Please stay, just for my bedtime story." Sandra looked from the girl to the man, then drew the scarf closer around her neck. "Okay," she murmured, "just for tonight." The SUV crunched up a long drive to a cold, modern house. Sleek stone walls, tall windows, but no warmth inside. No toys scattered, no drawings on the fridge, no laughter. Only silence. "It feels too quiet," Sandra whispered. "It has been," Nathaniel answered softly, "since she passed." Betty slipped her hand into Sandra's. "Come, I'll show you my room." The little girl led her to a cozy pink bedroom. A lamp cast a golden glow over stuffed animals and shelves of books. Betty picked one up and whispered, "It's about a fox lost in the snow." Sandra smiled. "That sounds like a good one." She brushed the child's hair gently, read in a soft rhythm, and before long Betty drifted asleep with her head resting on Sandra's lap. From the doorway, Nathaniel watched, his throat tightening. He hadn't seen his daughter so peaceful in months. Later, Sandra found a small guest room prepared for her. On the side table, a steaming mug of cocoa waited beside a folded note in careful handwriting. "Thank you for staying. Even just tonight." Sandra sat, cradling the mug between her hands. The fire flickered, warmth sinking into her chest, her bones, her heart. She had no promises, no guarantees of tomorrow. But tonight, someone had made room for her. And tonight, that was enough. The kitchen smelled of sugar and warmth. Sandra and Betty stood side by side, elbows deep in flour, giggling as they rolled uneven balls of cookie dough. The radio hummed softly in the background. Betty sang along in her sweet, tuneless way, while Sandra laughed when a spoon slipped and a cloud of flour puffed into the air around them. From the doorway, Nathaniel watched unseen. Betty's laughter, real, bright, unguarded, filled the house. It was the kind of sound that stayed long after it ended, echoing inside the heart. Later, When Betty was in pajamas and curled beneath her blankets with her teddy bear, Nathaniel lingered at the doorway. Sandra tucked the quilt snug around the girl and kissed her forehead. "Good night, sweet one." Betty yawned. "Will you read tomorrow, too?" Sandra smiled softly. "I will." As she stepped into the hallway, Nathaniel's voice stopped her.
Low. Rough.
She hasn't laughed like that in 2 years. Sandra turned. He didn't look at her, his gaze fixed on the night light glowing in Betty's room. "She was 3 when my wife died. She was on call that night, a doctor. She stopped at a car accident on her way home. Saved a man trapped inside. She never made it back." The silence stretched between them.
Soft.
Respectful. "My mother was a nurse," Sandra whispered after a pause. "She had cancer. I left med school to take care of her. She used to say, 'Even when you're hurting, if you can help someone else breathe easier, that's a good day.'" Nathaniel finally glanced at her, really looked. Then he nodded once. No more words were needed. The following night, after dinner, Sandra walked into the dining room and froze. The space was transformed. Candles flickered on the table. The lights dimmed low. A record played soft jazz in the corner. 2 untouched wine glasses waited. Nathaniel appeared, holding a plate of crackers and cheese. "I thought," he said, almost apologetically, "you might want a moment just for you." Sandra looked at the table,